Hey guys, welcome back, it's Meg. Today we're going to be running a 26 Fortified Streets of Wonder Tazavesh. You can find my stat weights in the top left, my legendary and unity in the top right, and my talent choices and trinkets in the bottom right. So unfortunately this week was supposed to be Grievous Spiteful, but it ended up actually being Necrotic Spiteful. I still opted to play Night Fae just because Streets is one of the easier dungeons in terms of damage taken. The only thing that you really need to be concerned about is the P.O.S.T Master and the trash in that room, the mail room. It still doesn't do that much, but that is probably the most amount of healing that you're going to have to do in the entire dungeon, which is what makes Night Fae a really good choice because you can focus on damage for 95% of the instance. It is also necrotic, but we have a blood DK tank, so he will take care of himself until he can't, and by then he will either just parry with Dancing Rune Weapon, he will Kyrian File, he's playing Kyrian this week, or he'll just start kiting out and we can drop a ring, but we're not going to have a whole lot of tank healing to do. And then it is also Spiteful. I might get pushed out of melee a couple of times, like a little early, but you can also get resets off of other people's Spiteful by standing in your Phaeline and just damaging them as you normally would any other ad, so you can kind of fish for Phaeline Stomp resets. I went ahead and sent Chi-Chi here. I am also actually using my Fortified. I did forget to mention that. When I play Night Fae, I use my Fortified just to get a little bit more healing out of Phaeline Stomp and all of the hots that come with that to kind of help supplement Chrysalis. I also sent Crane here just for a little bit of burst healing. There's not a whole lot of damage going out here, so I probably would have held it for next pull doing this again. But the next pull is going to be our less pull, so I'm going to have a little bit more help in terms of blanketing people with hots. When you're playing Night Fae, you are using Chi Burst, so I recommend just being aware of where you're sending it. Phaeline goes out pretty far there, but Chi Burst goes even further, so you don't want to be pulling things with it. You want to make sure that you're aiming it somewhere that it's not going to pull anything, usually into a wall or into a big open space is your best bet. Before we pull the mini-boss, we are going to run over back to the corner where Ovi is at, and we're going to line, and then when we pull, we're going to be pulling it to a corner, kind of like where the Waffle the Rat is, if you guys know about him, just so we can line those Radiant Bursts, because on Fortified, they still do a decent amount. Even on Tyrannical weeks, we'll still pull him over to that area so that we can line as melee and as ranged fairly easily. In all honesty, there's nothing very difficult about this boss. This is mainly a tank boss, and then you also have to deal with the swords. They do like M0 damage, they don't really do a lot. The biggest damage that you're going to be taking on this boss is when he steals the weapons. It'll do a little bit more than half your health if you are on the lower end of gear, so it's not really anything to worry about. There is a couple overlaps where the interrogation happens, and then he takes the weapons immediately after, and that can kill someone, so if that happens, if we don't have an immunity, I'll usually just cocoon the person that was in the interrogation phase. We like to go left. This has just been better for the comps that we run typically. My overall would be higher in terms of damage if we went right, because it is just more AoE, but the left side tends to work better for us as a group, so we're just going to go ahead and head on this way. On this pull we went ahead and pulled the dino in, but the core hounds do need to be killed I think within 8 seconds of each other, similar to the old molten core mechanic from that raid if you remember doing that. They do have to die at similar times, otherwise they will reconstitute and they will come back I think to full health. It might be half, I'm not completely sure, but you don't want to be staggering those too hard. Those need to be dying at the same time. The dino can die last, it doesn't matter, that one doesn't affect the 2 core hounds at all. I do have 4 stacks in my trinket, but I am going to hold on to it for the next pull, which is going to be cats and relics. I went ahead and popped Crane here after I dropped my trinket. We're also going to be trying to spot heal a little bit just because those bleeds kind of hurt and Chi-Ji wasn't quite taking care of it. They weren't in melee, so they weren't getting the initial breaths, and then Bacon ends up dying there. I'm not quite sure why. We talked about it during, and I can't remember what we said, but we end up full wiping here because it would not be savable at this point, so we just make sure we wipe quickly and just run back. Here we're going to send Lust because it is a Fortified week. We meant to send it here the first time we pulled this pack, which was part of the wipe. So we go ahead and just send it here. It'll be up by the time that we end up needing it. You want to make sure that you either don't kill the relic until they're desynced, or you want to make sure you kill before you guys get pulled into a Force Slam. That can happen, it has happened, and it has killed us before. It was really funny the first time it happened because it was in like a 15, but I would recommend taking note of the timers between Force Slam and the grip. Normally we drag the robot back into where we enter this room, into that doorway, but we forgot that it was no longer tyrannical, so he had a lot less health than normal, so he ended up kind of dying in a bad spot, but normally we will drag it into the corner. I go ahead and pop Crane here. I don't really need it, it's more just for mana conservation, but also to get rid of that chain before it even applies to me, because it is considered a root, and you can Tiger's List and Way of the Crane it off. On that last boss, I was not thinking, and I sent a 4-stack into the boss on my trinket. Definitely would recommend holding a 4-stack until this pull. It will go much better for you. You'll probably cap out around like 40k if you had a 4-stack for this. So would definitely recommend holding on to it if that ends up being your timing as well. I just had a lapse of brain working and ended up using it on the boss. This is kind of a beefy pull, so I went ahead and popped Crane. It isn't necessarily a difficult pull, but if you get too many people getting targeted with the P.O.S.T Master throw or the male throw, it's going to be kind of unfortunate, similar to Sanguine Depths, the throw knowledge. I also got jumped on by a creature there, it got let out of the cage, and then I'm just going to cut out my Spiteful. The last 4 seconds of Crane we're not missing a whole lot for, because it is the end of the pull. Right now our hunter is using the will buff to go solo the roleplay for the music boss. He's gonna come back and join us for this boss. So the biggest thing with this boss is getting and then getting all of your renewing mists out as soon as you can, and getting the whole group with the hots on them so you can cleave up during the fan mail. As Night Fae, this is something you want to be doing all of the time because that's where you're going to save a bunch of mana, and that'll ultimately make the difference between it feeling really good or really shit. So you want to make sure that you are keeping up on your hots as much as you can, and then relying on people to use, you know, Ice Block if they can, and things like that. If not, you're going to blow a little bit more mana than normal, but it's not going to be the end of the world considering this is not a Tyran week. You do have Chi-Ji and you do have Revival, but you are missing Fallen Order, which is a fairly significant cooldown because it does take care of an entire fan mail, and you get a couple of them throughout the fight. So not having that, definitely felt it in the mana pool, definitely felt it in terms of health bars, but given that you're not going to get one-shot by the fan mail on a 26 on a Fortified week, you kind of can just let your hots do most of it, and then just cleave heal people up at the end while you're doing bombs and things like that. Normally what you'll see a lot of groups do is they will have their healer do the bombs, they'll stand by the open chute, and everyone will throw the bombs to them, but considering that I am a melee healer and also that I am playing Night Fae, we elected to have our mage be the catcher, so we would throw them to her and then she would put them in. Oftentimes that's like a Holy Priest job or a Resto Shaman, like a ranged healer job, but Holy Paladin and Mistweaver don't have quite as easy of a time with that. I know that there are a lot of bugs with this boss. A lot of people seem to think that it is bringing the mobs from the roleplay into the room, but every time that we have tried picking up the horn last, which is usually the tank one, it's like right in front, we haven't had any problems as long as that is the last instrument picked up. So that's our working theory, is what bugs it is picking that one up before any of the others or not picking it up last. So I don't know if anyone else has had experience with that, but right here you want to make sure that you're using a defensive or CCing the throw drinks, because if you get 2 of those it will one-shot you. They are actually hit pretty hard. You can see Prue just got hit by one there, took him down to about 60% HP. So you don't really need to pop GG here, I just hadn't used it and I had it up, and there was a little bit of healing that was gonna go out, but I mainly was just doing it to save mana, because I wanted to be able to spend my mana on my stomps. So we're just gonna pat on a little bit with spinning Crane Kick, build stacks, and then we're just gonna go back to our single target rotation after he dies. Crane is still running, and with the buff and everything I regained my mana, so we don't really need GG, but I went ahead and just threw out that last Enveloping Mist. I missed the Enveloping Breath because he had despawned, but sometimes you can sneak one out. Right here, our hunter had gone upstairs to go ahead and start the roleplay. You don't need to invis or anything, but you can just kind of walk close to it as long as you can get past the one peacekeeper that we skipped. We are connected here, he jumps back down and launches an air attack on me, and then I almost died getting charged, so that was super fun. You can get chained with people upstairs even though it's technically phased. So if you're not going to get pulled, but if you see that you're chained with someone, just wait, and then you can aim kind of where we're tanking it to jump down so you don't get hit by the shock mines, because those will kill you. I want to say the roleplay for the upstairs boss is like 30 to 45 seconds or something to that effect, so it is really nice to be able to get it done early, especially if you are a little bit tighter on time. So this boss is either the easiest thing you've ever done, or the hardest boss you've ever done. It is all dependent upon spell queuing and how lucky you get with the Shuri spawns, and if it ends up Shuri spam casting or anything like that. We still don't really know what's going on with this guy. We have tried experimenting with push timers, with waiting for the kick or kicking way too early and things like that, and just trying all these different things to see what causes the problems that happen in P2 after the divides, and we haven't quite figured it out yet. Pretty sure in this run it was fairly normal, but in the 27 that we did after this, it just spam casted Shuri, 2 of them directly on top of us, and it just kind of became this mess of a fight. We didn't really do anything different. Not really sure what happens with him, but the only damage that's really going to be going out here is the quick blade. I have been told that you can dodge it by moving, similar to Call in the Sanguine Depths, the last boss. You can kind of walk out of her wicked gash that she does. I have experience dodging it, but I don't know if it's just by chance or if it is actually dodgeable consistently. So also, if you are me and walk into the Shuris, you will also be taking damage. So there's only really 2 damage events outside of tank damage here, and it's not a hard fight to heal. It is just kind of a hard fight to keep track of in a sense, but again, that's all dependent on if you get bad divides, bad Shuris, bad portals, things like that. So for reference, this was the second Fortified 26 streets that we had done. The first one I did as Night Fae was on an explosive week, and I did like 4.9k overall or something like that. It was much lower than I was expecting for Night Fae, but I wanted to see how it was without explosive, and it's about, 1,000.1 DPS difference because I finished this key at 6.1k, so Night Fae is pretty good in here. It would be even better if we went right, but because we go left, it's a lot more single target and all of that fun stuff, so you do lose a little value if you go left, but this is still a high overall for Mistweaver, especially in a key so high. So I'll be consistently playing Night Fae in Fortified, Streets of Wonder, maybe not on a Grievous week because of P.O.S.T Master, but outside of that, this is a very good Night Fae key for us. I went ahead and popped Crane here just because I wanted to keep DPSing. We called Commit because we got a Far Shuri, and we have Todd and everything like that, so this was actually a very good run. I was very pleased with how this went. I hope that this video was helpful. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitch, Twitter, or Discord, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.